In the large world of media, many of the most iconic, recognizable characters we see are superheroes. I've been a long-time fan of superheroes. I grew up watching the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, which really introduced me to the broader world of comics. I was mesmerized by the fun costumes, the cool powers, the storylines, but something I never really took time to consider was the deeper philosophy behind the cultural love of superheroes and heroes in general. The love for flawed but morally righteous characters who have to overcome obstacles to achieve both their personal goals and to save and benefit their friends, family, and even the whole world. And to preface this video, different people like the things that they like for different reasons, and that's okay. Maybe you enjoy the cinematic experience of going to a Marvel movie and seeing the best action Hollywood has to offer. Maybe you're a longtime comic book fan who loves looking for Easter eggs and seeing their favorite childhood heroes finally getting adapted to the big screen. My point in this video isn't to shame people who enjoy superheroes for these reasons. Every reason to enjoy something that you love is perfectly valid. My only goal in this video is to introduce a perspective of superheroes that I think is often missed in explorations of the cultural impact of superheroes, and to explore some of the elements that I think even the most thorough and thoughtful videos on the subject seem to gloss over sometimes. Now, with that introduction out of the way, let's get on with the actual substantive part of the video. There's an infamous scene from Kill Bill Volume 2 that is often cited in the discussion of Superman and superheroes in general in their depictions in media. The general gist of the scene is, Bill is delivering a monologue to the bride where he brings up the topic of Superman. He claims that Superman is fundamentally different from other heroes like Spider-Man and Batman, in that unlike them, he is and has always been Superman. He, according to Bill, wakes up as Superman and dons a suit and glasses as his disguise. That is to say, he is Superman first and Clark Kent second. Superman is his personality, and Clark Kent is just his disguise, a meek, weak representation of how Superman views humanity. This monologue, while really well written and good in the context of the movie, fundamentally mischaracterizes Superman. Now, this scene has been discussed and debunked to death within the world of superhero fandoms, and while I may not be adding anything particularly new to the discussion, it would be irresponsible for me to not at least touch up on it. Bill, in this scene, serves as a really good stand-in for how a lot of people feel about Superman, including, unfortunately, Zack Snyder. They think of Superman as this godlike entity with powers who views himself as a savior of mankind and only takes on the identity of Clark Kent as a way to blend in. But this really couldn't be further from the truth. The exact opposite is true. Superman does not become Clark Kent. Clark Kent becomes Superman. He was not born Superman. He grew up on a small farm in Kansas with the Kents. He had a normal, humble upbringing as the son of a farmer. He is, at his core, a clumsy, meek, and yet honest, good man. When he puts on that cape and costume, he becomes not what he thinks humanity needs, but what humanity deserves, a symbol of hope and peace. It doesn't matter whether he had the powers or not, we know Clark would still do everything in his power to help people, which is exactly what he wants to inspire other people to do as Superman. There's a scene in Superman issue 701 where he's called to the scene where a very distressed woman is standing on top of a skyscraper. Obviously, he could use his powers to very easily force her to safely come down, but he doesn't. He instead stays with her for hours until she is ready to come down herself, even telling her that if she jumped, he wouldn't stop her. In this scene, the woman didn't need Superman. She needed someone to talk to her and to stay with her and convince her that it was going to be okay and that there were going to be good days ahead of her. Superman didn't need his powers for the scene, aside from maybe to fly up to the top of the skyscraper. He just needed the willingness to help someone in need. We can see countless examples of Superman's humility when it comes to his role. He doesn't see himself as a sole savior of Metropolis. Superman respects police officers, other superheroes, even ordinary people, anyone who's willing to lend a helping hand to those in need. This lack of arrogance perfectly demonstrates that Superman sees himself as human. He may be an alien genetically, born with powers that put him physically far above everyone else on Earth, but he is first and foremost a human. He was born and raised human, lived among humans, and sees himself as a human in every way. He does not see himself as some entity that is above us common people. He sees himself as one of us who just happens to have powers. Now, that just about concludes the most commonly talked about points about Superman, but here's where I think even the most die-hard Superman fans and even some of the better Superman storylines sometimes miss the mark when it comes to describing Superman's character. He is so much more than just an ordinary man with extraordinary powers that strives to do the right thing. He is a symbol for humanity, both within and outside the world of comics. He symbolizes hope, and not just hope of being saved by Superman, but genuine hope that we can work together for better days as a society, and that there are the kinds of people out there who are going to do everything within their power to make the world a better place. He inspires other heroes, other people, to come together and act bravely in the face of insurmountable obstacles. His simple existence has a positive impact on Metropolis and the DC world even when he isn't actively saving people. Something that's really important for showing this impact that he has is the perspective of the people that he saves. This is an aspect of his character I wish would be incorporated in media more, both movies and comics. I always imagine something like the scene from the first Spider-Man movie, where the New Yorkers on the bridge, inspired by Spider-Man, throw junk at the Green Goblin to try to save Peter. Those are the kinds of scenes that are perfect for Superman media because he is the quintessential symbol of heroism. And yet, we are stuck with Zack Snyder's take on Superman, an otherworldly being who doesn't even smile. And not even just Superman or DC, but superhero movies in general have really seemed to move away from the focus on the people, which might sound silly, but think about it. In pretty much every superhero movie in recent years, can you remember a single heroic action or even line of dialogue from a civilian? Superhero movies have seemed to have adopted a more individualistic approach to superheroing. More often than not, the fight between the heroes and the villains is some personal grudge match, or maybe some clashing of differing ideals, but even when they involve saving people, the heroes are always so far removed from the people they're saving. In Doctor Strange, Stephen fights to save the Earth from Dormammu, but all of the fights happen in the mirror dimension or whatever weird astral world Dormammu comes from. In The Flash, Barry needs to fix the timeline after messing it up by trying to save his mom, which obviously involves the lives of innocent people. But what interaction outside of maybe the opening scene of the movie does any superhero in that movie have with any ordinary person? In Spider-Man Far From Home, the whole conflict just revolves around Spider-Man villains who have it out for Peter. And obviously, there are way more examples, but my point is, these movies don't feel very superhero-y. One might try to point out the grittier, more vigilante type characters like Batman are intrinsically far removed from the people they save, but this isn't even true. Batman is a character grounded in realism. He is an ordinary man who experienced a horrible childhood trauma and used it as motivation to clean up the streets of Gotham. But while he is not smiling as he zips through the town and receiving the key to the city, he is still, in his best iterations, not very far removed from the people he's saving. He isn't usually off fighting big galaxy busters. He's more often than not cleaning up Gotham on a very street level, which keeps his character really grounded. Taking a step away from superhero movies, there's one piece of media I would like to discuss, one that I think perfectly encapsulates superheroes and their relationship to the people that they are saving. That series is My Hero Academia. Now, the My Hero fanbase has garnered a bit of a reputation for being a little strange.
Somebody once told me it's your power, Todoroki. Your mother burned your face and she laughed. And now you're...
And understandably so. But I would definitely recommend this show to any fan of superheroes or comic books, even if you've never seen an anime before. That being said, I will be going into some heavy spoilers for the anime and some light spoilers for the manga, so if you haven't seen the show and plan to, or you're watching the anime and haven't caught up on the manga, I'll include a timestamp to the rest of the video, although I imagine after the discussion of All Might, the video will be just about over, but I guess you can hop over to the conclusion. Anyways, the show centers around a high school boy named Izuku Midoriya, a quirkless, or powerless, boy in a superhero society. Through his heroic actions, he earns the attention of the number one superhero, All Might, who is the main character I want to focus on. All Might perfectly encapsulates many of the elements that I think are most important for a Superman-esque character. His goal and mission is to be a symbol of peace, a pillar that holds up the My Hero Academia society. He accomplishes this so well, in fact, that after he loses his powers, we start to see the society start to collapse in the absence of a symbol to keep them inspired and hopeful. The scene I want to focus on is the All Might fight against his main antagonist, All For One. I think this scene is the most important for showing just how much Horikoshi, the writer of My Hero Academia, understands what it means to be a hero and by extension, how to write a superhero story. This is a fight between two beings that are, well, at the time at least, way stronger than everyone else in their verse, and yet the scene stays really grounded in a simple but effective way. Throughout the fight between All Might and All for One, we are given constant cuts to the people watching the fight, the citizens All Might is trying to protect. We see how their emotions change over time, how they slowly lose confidence as they see All Might get put through the ringer. It also gives us a more solid grasp about the stakes of the fight and just what it means for the people in the society as a whole if All Might loses here. We also see how they hold on to hope that All Might will pull through, which makes it so much more impactful to us as an audience when we finally see him make his comeback. We see something very similar in the Endeavor versus High-End Nobu fight, where we just constantly see how ordinary people watching the fight are feeling, which really gives us a good reflection of the differences between Endeavor and All Might and how the public view them. And of course, Endeavor's eventual comeback feels even more powerful. But Endeavor isn't the focus of this video as much as I love him. The point I mean to make is this. Citizen-focused storytelling, in my opinion, is a really good way to keep the most ridiculous superpowered fights grounded and not too far removed from the stakes. All Might is, at his core, an ordinary man with extraordinary ambitions. We are told in the story that before All Might came along, the world was in a dark place, with crime at an all-time high, and where ordinary people had really lost hope that things would get better. Toshinori, All Might's alter ego, was a quirkless teenager at the time, but even without a quirk, he knew he wanted to be a symbol of light in the darkness, and that such a symbol was exactly what the world needed. In this way, he is a lot like Superman. He eventually gets powers, really absurdly strong powers, but at his core, he is just an ordinary person who wanted to make the world a better place. He is intrinsically tied to the people that he serves. Everything from his motivations and ambitions to his origins and his fights serves to remind us just how much he cares about the people he protects and how much they care about him. Modern superhero movies and even comics don't really encapsulate this aspect of superhero-dom to nearly the degree that My Hero Academia does, and I think that for the superhero genre to be salvaged, at least in my eyes, this focus on the people in society needs to be emphasized more. But anyways, these are just the ramblings of a crazy guy who doesn't really know what he's talking about. This is my first time making a video essay, and I definitely plan to make more in the future, although I don't really know what the focus of my channel would be as of yet. I can't imagine very many people are going to watch this video, but if you are watching it and have any thoughts, constructive or otherwise, please share them in the comments. I'm really interested to know what people think about this.